Hello, my friends. We have great news coming from France. Ukraine will obtain lots of the weapons. The contract is up to be signed tomorrow. But by the time I'm recording this video, it's already evident that Rafale jets also will be in the package. It is absolutely outstanding news. So not just Gripen fighter jets someday will be supplied to Ukraine, but also one of the best fighter jets out there in the world, Rafale. So here's the message. According to the French journalist, the historic agreement to be signed tomorrow between Ukraine and France, it will include Rafale fighter jets and weapon systems for them, the SAM-T-NG long-range air defense systems with Aster 30B1NT missiles. This is the competitor for Patriot systems, also very capable air defense. It is also possible to intercept medium-range ballistic missiles with that system, with a flight range up to 1,500 kilometers, GF 300 radars and drone systems. So absolutely great contract could be signed with French authorities tomorrow. I'm sure that it will be signed, at least the initial stage of this contract agreement. You may call it different names. And I just wonder how much time it might take for Ukraine to obtain those weapons. Well, here, unfortunately, we're speaking for years. For Rafale especially, it requires some of the training, some of the logistics, some maintenance bases. I'm sure that France will provide Ukraine with everything of that. Plus, judging on experience and differences in the training programs for Mirage 2000 and F-16s, well, French program took less time. So potentially, here I just say I hope that it will work way faster than with Gripen jets. We know that Rafale is in production. Everything to produce those fighter jets is already out there. We should not wait as with Gripen. Then the factory itself, it doesn't have those kind of the capabilities for hundreds of those jets. No, in France, everything is upscaled and they're ready to produce those. I'm sure about it. I would say that maybe there should be also coordination done with other allies, those who already purchased Rafale jets from France. Maybe they may postpone the delivery for some countries, especially the countries which are not affected by war, or maybe there is no perspective for war to erupt in their particular region in the nearby future, so Ukraine should negotiate using also diplomacy together with France. And yeah, I wish I had access to this facility and not showing the secrets of the production, but at least to the fighter jet itself, to film, to tell about it, story, specs, and why this fighter jet is so unique and so outstanding. And you know, this video was shared, I think, more than a year ago. It shows Ukrainian pilots on training in France. Let's watch this one.
At this airbase in the south of France, Ukrainian soldiers are training to become fighter pilots. This Ukrainian soldier is just 21 years old and has been here for 3 months. He's about to fly with a French instructor in this Alpha jet, identical to those in France's fleet.
So, by the time we all been told that, okay, our guys are being trained from the very beginning, young, talented boys, and I know what I'm talking about because during the COVID crisis, then I wasn't flying in commercial aviation, I went to the Air Club, and we had students from the Kharkiv State Flight Academy who flown small aircraft, so it was their beginning of the training, yeah, the first year of training. So already they got some of the practice and we flown together on a small piston engine airplane, but I was mostly ground instructor for theory for them. And guys, those pilots, they know way more than I knew then I was a student at their age. They're very talented, and at this age, for younger generation, it's very easy to accept all of those complicated things which are presented in the aircraft, and they deal with it in a better way. Back then I saw this video, I thought, okay, maybe they're being trained to fly F-16s or something. But no, they will fly Rafale. I'm sure about it, my friends. The training was planned before by France already. France knew about the deal which will happen tomorrow. Rafale will go for Ukraine, and those pilots already trained. Well, maybe some of them are flying Mirage 2000, some of them, but Ukraine doesn't have lots of those Mirages. So the main thing will be Rafale. That's why they were trained in France, and that is why, because they already know English, maybe maybe also French, and they know how to work with the Western-made equipment. For them, it will be very easy to get the new type, Rafale. A fantastic airplane, but still several months of the training is required to master that one. And Ukraine will use Rafale also not to fight against Russian Sukhoi 35 airplanes, because Sukhoi is still like it has the most powerful radar from all of the fighter jets in the world. So for sure it spots Rafale before Rafale spots Sukhoi 35. Yeah, it's understandable. Also Russians have long-range missiles, and for this reason Ukraine requires many of those fighter jets to be in the Ukrainian Air Force, and only that is how Ukraine may operate closer to the front lines. Those fighter jets could be used for multiple, well, this is not Rafale, this is just a training jet, the first jet for the pilot training in French army.
The program is tailored to the war in Ukraine, focusing on the essentials: flights in a group, shooting, and missile interception.
Yeah, initially Rafale will be used exactly as F-16s to intercept cruise missiles, Shahids, and different stuff. We see that on the front lines, Ukraine mainly uses Soviet-made fighter jets, MiG-29, Sukhoi 27, sometimes attack airplanes, the competitor for this one, A-10, Sukhoi Su-25, and they all mainly drop aviation gliding bombs to hit Russian positions. Also in Pokrovsk it is happening. It is happening in multiple of the regions, also in Zaporizhia. Well, sometimes Ukraine uses American-made bombs, but in some of the occasions also French-made bombs, which are very precise. And I would also like to see this airplane, because they're gonna retire the next year from the United States Army. They will be just grounded in some Arizona desert. So why not to send those to Ukraine? Or F-16s, which are also out there in Arizona. Just maintenance and send to Ukraine. But no, unfortunately, United States, they're not sending their airplanes to Ukraine. That could be a game changer. Like the perfect scenario really for Ukraine with all of those fighter jets is to concentrate on one type. Now Ukraine has some of the F-16s, some of the Mirage 2000s, there will be Gripens, there will be Rafale. Like, what is happening? And just imagine how expensive and how difficult it will be to operate with every sort of the maintenance for those airplanes. How many pilots are required? Like lots of the stuff is actually required for this really zoo of the aircraft. Well, Ukraine is like that in ground forces, so like there are multiple of the weapons from every sort of the country, any sort of the producer, and it goes for airplanes, for fighter jets as well. So Soviet airplanes, yeah, I forgot to mention them as well. It's crazy what is happening in Air Force. But if France supplies those Rafales to Ukraine, it means that they will also support Ukraine at least with maintenance and spare parts and weapons. It's okay. It's a good thing after all. So it's better to have something split than not to have a thing. So after all, I support this idea. It is a great fighter jet, and Ukraine is very lucky to operate those. Ukraine will be number 10 country that obtains those fighter jets. Yes, obviously with the help of Rafale, Ukraine will not destroy the entire Russian army or something like that, but it's one more tool, yes, one more tool which Ukraine could use to defend itself. It's not a Wunderwaffe or something. That is what before was accepted as some sort of the wow weapon. Then in 2023 we spoke about Bradleys, Leopard tanks, Abrams tanks. All of that is burning under the drone strikes as Russian-made or Soviet-made tanks. It is pretty much evident. So the idea how to use this equipment properly, that's the way out for Ukraine. And again, I'm calling for reforms in Ukrainian army, for command evolution. Let's not call it change of command. I will call it command evolution, all right? Without Syrskyi, it's better. So in that case, Ukraine may handle the defense for a very long time. And I'm sure that after the Putin's regime collapse, Ukraine has the chance to return back all of the territories. But for that, of course, there should be some of the events happening in Russia. Interesting events. There's gonna be not update from Ukraine, but updates from Russia. Then there will be some of the confrontation. Well, hopefully one day we see it. Meanwhile, let's watch this one. Wow, it's very huge and very loud. I reduced the volume for you. Those are the missiles, cruise missiles. Here's the context. Ukraine publishes the first ever video of them launching their new Bars Leopard, yeah, that's the name, missiles on the Russian targets. The domestically developed long-range drone missiles, cruise missile UAV hybrid with a range of 800 kilometers and capable of carrying a payload of 100 kgs. Yeah, is a part of Kyiv's effort to produce its own deep strike weapons and reduce dependence on Western systems. Bars is one of the several new Ukrainian long-range systems alongside Peklo, Palanitsa, Luty, Ruta and Flamingo. Here we also have some sort of the zoo, yeah? Well, it's really hard to get the image, it goes something strange. Well, here we have maybe bars, or it looks like different Ukrainian missile. Maybe it looks like that, climbs with a starter booster engine and then turns on this jet engine. Yeah. Well, anyways, Ukraine is now experimenting with its long-range tools, and that requires investments. And we know about this huge corruption scandal, yeah, but some of the media, they try now to speculate without the evidence, accusing also the company or management of the Firepoint company connecting that one to the scandal. Well, for now, at this moment, we don't have the proofs that something was wrong with the Firepoint company or is wrong. For example, there was an article published today on the Clash Report, also before New York Times posted some sort of the accusations around towards the company management, but still NABU doesn't provide any sort of the evidence about some sort of the corruption schemes around this producer of the weapons. So let's analyze what they write, because basically New York Times and Clash Report writes the same stuff. While brave Ukrainians are fighting against Russian aggression to save their land, Ukraine needs to wipe out corruption mess. I agree with that. Behind it all, Timur Mindich, a long childhood friend and business associate of President Zelensky, who co-owns Quartal 95, the entertainment studio that launched Zelensky's career. Yeah, we all know about it already from previous, if you watch my videos, you know about it. The Firepoint, this company that produces FP1 drones, FP2 drones, and FP5 Flamingo. So Firepoint, just one of 500 drone companies set up after the start of the war in Ukraine, sold 220 million worth FP1 drones in just 2024, 30% of Ukrainian total drone budget. So far so good. Those are very capable. And even if you speak about the recent strike on Russian Novorossiysk port, it was conducted by Neptune and also FP1. This huge kaboom of the Russian S-400 air defense systems happened because FP1 drones hit that Russian military base. So far so good. So they receive budget funds for the production of the drones and missiles. Its revenue surged from 4 million in 2023 to over 100 million in 2024, while its workforce expanded from 18 to 2,200 employees. So, okay, what's wrong about it? It's the promising company, especially in Ukraine. There was nothing associated to long-range weapons, and if you check out any sort of the drone production company, there will be the similar story. This one is just a little bigger than the average, yeah? In 2025, the firm secured $1 billion contract, funded through a Danish-led European initiative by Ukraine Ministry of Defense to produce the Flamingo missile. So even our European allies are involved from Denmark. And critics, who are the critics? Some critics. So they voiced a concern over how a company with only a prototype, like in serial production certification, could obtain such substantial awards, suggesting potential favoritism in the bidding process. Well, we see about Flamingo, I partially agree that it's not that capable as, for example, Neptune. But the rest, this company is not just about Flamingo missile. Flamingo missile is the part of their production. Here we speak about FP1 drones, FP2 drones, which are very freaking capable. They hit Russian air defense in Crimea. They hit Russian infrastructure deep inside Russia. So about those two, FP1, FP2, those are fantastic. Flamingo Yes, maybe, but who am I to judge? Yeah, just a guy with a microphone. I see just, yeah, I researched some of those videos, frontline strikes deep inside Russia. I see that Neptune is very precise, that Flamingo is not that precise. Like Flamingo has 20% maybe capabilities of to aim the targets, and recently Russia shut down one Flamingo over Ural, but who are those critics to judge whether company should obtain 1 billion for fundings with prototype? Is there some kind of the alternate for that missile? Well, Neptune may be an alternate, but that requires way more investments. Maybe they wanted to experiment with a cheap missile like FAU-1, yeah, something like that, very cheap in production. We're gonna put aviation bomb right in the forward part. We're gonna put aviation engine at the back. As far as I remember, IE-25, which is used in Yakovlev airplanes. There are not too many, but they claim they found those engines somewhere abroad, so they start the production of those missiles. So the plus of this missile that it is cheap. Yeah, the size is big, that's why Russians spot that missile with their air defense. It's the downside, but maybe if you launch many of them, they could be effective, because it is more powerful after all than Neptune. NABU investigations trace Firepoint ultimate ownership back to Timur Mindich, so probably Timur Mindich is also involved in this case. I'm not speaking that everything was clear in that company, okay, but without freaking evidence, those critics and those articles are basically about nothing, let's say. NABU investigations trace, so if NABU publishes real evidence, as they did with the Mindich scandal around Energoatom and Ukrainian energy sector in general, if they publish everything of that around Firepoint, I would say yes, we have the evidence that Firepoint is wrong, it is also involved in corruption schemes, there should be no $1 billion investments, everything of that is bullshit. And again, it's about Zelensky's circle, Timur Mindich, who was involved not in one scheme, but in all of the wrongdoing. Yeah, by the time that the country is at war, I would say about it 100%. But for now, we don't have the freaking evidence that was published for energy sector. Yeah, so what they say here, okay, if Mindich was involved in that case, maybe if there are some rumors that he's also connected to the Firepoint, let's accuse now Firepoint. Well, it could be true, yeah, but at this stage it's very early to say. Timur Mindich's accountant, Igor Fursenko, who is also an accountant for Firepoint, has been arrested. So already something is happening, yeah, out there. So maybe they're gonna get more information on the Firepoint company. Maybe after all it involved in corruption schemes. We're gonna see. Investigators uncovered 100 million money laundering network just 300 meters from SBU. They wrote this article so damn freaking badly, you see? Because it is not connected to the Firepoint. Here they're saying about Firepoint, and this $100 is from the other recent scandal, yeah? Energy sector. They should have written here that it's about freaking Energoatom, and it's because an average reader will connect it, of course, to Firepoint company. It's written very badly here. It's the provocative, yeah, article. Zelensky promised to fight corruption in 2019. Yeah, those populist politicians, they promise everything, and Mindich is somewhere running. So for now, without any sort of the evidence, this article is just as we may understand it just as an assumption. Okay, so it's not evident that something was wrong in Firepoint. Just some of the accusations from journalists, from those critics, analytics, give us the evidence from NABU, and I'll be number one to tell about one more corruption scandal in Ukrainian military in this case. And NABU is investigating Ukrainian military. They promised to release some of the files. We're gonna see, we're gonna understand, discover whatsoever, and I'm gonna publish the video about it. I also get the question of how do we know the evidence? Well, NABU, National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, they have their own YouTube channel. You can go, Operation Midas, they publish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the videos. Yeah, of course, in the court, they present way more evidence compared to YouTube channel, but here we may understand what it's all about. So we have all of the conversations written here, audio. So they put the bug in the office of Mindich. By the way, the office belonged to Derkach, the ex-Ukrainian MP, who is a traitor who was working for FSB, and now he is a senator of Russian Federation. And somehow $2 of the $1 million from those $100 were sent to someone to Russia. Somehow, yes, it's all recorded, written here, and I watched already all of those videos. I read everything of that. Yeah, interesting. That's how, guys, I know what I'm talking about, but there is no word published about the Firepoint company so far. However, NABU, and this is one of the detectives of NABU, they say that, of course, there will be some investigations, or investigations are ongoing in military sector of the country as well, because Zelensky's friends, including Timur Mindich, they were also involved in military sector. Also, Umerov, the ex-defense minister of Ukraine, is out there. It's gonna be kind of interesting. Well, for now we have this kind of the scandal already in the military, that Mindich bought some of the jackets, bulletproof jackets, or vests is better to call them. Well, they did not specify where he bought those, but he invested millions into the bulletproof vests, and later on he tried to sell them to Ukrainian Defense Ministry as Israeli-made vests. But Umerov officially mentioned that he didn't agree on the deal. Nevertheless, it seems like Mindich, after all, sold those vests to some of the private firm that sent those vests to the front lines. It's something like that. So the corruption component here is he bought those for cheaper price and he tried to sell for the higher price, presenting them as some sort of the Israeli-made vests, which is bullshit. He wanted defense ministry, so the government of Ukraine, to pay for this extra, so it's the pure corruption. And we are just at the very beginning of this Midas phase of investigation. But again, Firepoint company is being investigated, yes, but for now there are no proofs published. We'll see everything, guys. I'm very happy that we have guys like NABU, the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office. That's the difference between Ukraine and Russia, right? Yeah, it might sound regularly, but no one persecutes Putin's circle. And we know that corruption in Russia is very high, yeah? In Ukraine, it is possible to prosecute. NABU, they don't care even if president is involved, which is absolutely great. That is what we need. We need democracy with less corruption. Unfortunately, on the way, there could be many of those big corruption scandals, but without those, unfortunately, Ukraine cannot achieve the final result, reforms. Not just in the government, I think in the army there also should be reforms. There should be some sort of the stick for now at this beginning way, yeah? Stick like NABU, Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office and Court, to beat those politicians, corrupt officials, to kick them out sometimes, yeah? Or they live on their own without being persecuted, which is kind of sad. But nevertheless, I think Ukraine will manage it. Unfortunately, now there is the lack of trust between government and people because of those scandals, but we'll see how it goes in the coming few months or maybe few weeks.
Что за аппарат? Сколько лошадей? 120-ки, да, Тась?
Poor animals, once again, thanks to the channel Power Parks, they analyze all of those videos, shared privately sometimes in the private groups, they have somehow access. Again, donkeys are used by Russians on the front lines as supply delivery animals. Yeah, not vehicles, animals. Well, in this case, the cameraman says 120-ки. 120-ки means 120mm mortar shells. So they operate not at the very front line, but for mortar, artillery, they may deliver some of the shells. So not exactly on the front lines. And just look at this mud here. And just imagine if it is rainy. Now it's kind of wet weather over there by the time it was taken. But even on motorcycle, it's gonna be hard to go through this road. Maybe just on all-terrain vehicle or using donkeys. If you're not in a hurry, donkey is the way out, because this soldier absolutely would be exhausted taking 120mm mortar mines with him. By the way, cameraman was, well, surprised, let's say, so it means that there are not many donkeys after all on the front lines, and he asked whether the donkey is okay, can they, are they exhausted? And the Russian soldier answered that we are all exhausted. So that's the end of this video. And again, we may laugh, we may not laugh, but this donkey delivers devastating weapons to mortar, and later on it flies towards the Ukrainian army. So is it effective? Yes. The answer is yes. Does it look cringe? Also yes. But if it is working, it doesn't really matter how it looks like. Yeah, guys, this video goes from Rafale fighter jets to donkeys, but that is what we have, realities of the modern day war. My friends are gonna film the next update probably tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Thank you so much for your kind support on Patreon and on membership of the channel. Because of your support, I'm capable to sustain my job filming videos every day. And please support me with the Patreon link in the video description just below, or press join button. I guess it's somewhere here. I wonder if I pointed out correctly. Well, for you, for your player, you will see everything. And if you don't have this opportunity to support me in that way, you may press your like to this video, press it, yes, and subscribe for the channel. By subscribing and liking the video, you also propel it to YouTube algorithms, into YouTube algorithms, I think it's correctly, and more people will watch it, which is good. All of the YouTubers like that, and me as well. The more views, the better it is for everything. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.